Welcome back to the Raider Ranch, everybody, here at the Raider D podcast, where we talk about Raiders every single day, whether it is breaking news, rumors, or just opinions. If you love the Raiders, then you are in the right spot. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the like button. And hey, just consider becoming a member and helping out the channel become more successful so we can grow this thing out to be the best Raiders channel you can possibly have on YouTube and other social media. Truly appreciate each and every one of our supporters. Now let's get into today's video, and we're going to be talking about 3 free agents who are really starting to catch some fire inside that Raiders building, according to insiders with the situation. And we got 2 receivers on the board and a running back. We're going to go over all 3 of them, and I'm going to tell you the pros and cons of each one, as well as the one I think that makes sense for the Raiders and why the other 2 don't. So let's get into it right off of the gate. We're going to talk about Chris Godwin, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Very familiar with John Spytek, very familiar with Tom Brady. They know the guy, they know his work ethic, they know his athleticism, and they know his potential. Downside of Chris Godwin, despite being an elite wide receiver, is the fact that he cannot stay healthy. And because he cannot stay healthy, he has not been able to put up the numbers. In fact, this year he barely put over 500 yards and only a handful of touchdowns. Whereas if he was just healthy all year long, this guy would be a perennial 1,000 plus yard receiving type of guy and well over a dozen touchdowns. But again, one of the big drawbacks of Chris Godwin would be his injury issue. One of the pros is because he hasn't put up a lot of numbers, and especially this past season, he is going to be available for a lot cheaper than some other guys that you might want to consider now or in the future. So pros and cons: elite X wide receiver. He can absolutely get it done. Cons on him: health concerns. The guy can't stay healthy and finish an entire season. And for this reason, I'm going to go ahead and say that the Raiders should probably pass on the opportunity of a Chris Godwin because it's just too big of a gamble, and this is a loaded wide receiver and running backs class, so maybe we just go into the draft and grab our guy there. Let's talk about the second guy, and the second guy is absolutely a beast when he is healthy, and that is T. Higgins, a guy that we have talked about on this podcast many times now, and why he would, and maybe not, also make sense for the Las Vegas Raiders in the free agency of this coming season. T. Higgins, true X wide receiver, a guy who can go out there, get into traffic, and get those contested balls. He is going to be an absolute stud lined up opposite of our absolute stud tight end Brock Bowers. Imagine this: T. Higgins, Brock Bowers, Trey Tucker, Jacoby Myers. That's an offensive loaded wide receiving core that only the wildest dreams can come true. If, and it's a big if, T. Higgins can actually play an entire season, because a lot like Chris Godwin, he has injury issues. The guy has never played an entire season his entire career without missing some part of a game or multiple games due to injuries. And this is a big knock on him. However, he did put up nearly 1,000 yards this past season despite some injury issues, put up a handful of touchdowns, and again, he helped the Cincinnati Bengals win some games. When he is out there, they are a better team. And he was franchise tagged last year. I don't think that he's going to come back on a franchise tag this year. And because of the lack of production, he's probably not going to be a top tier paid type of wide receiver. You could bring him in on a 2-year deal and probably get away with $15 million a year. That would not break the bank. And I would say probably that would make sense for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now let's get into a guy that has absolutely been productive his entire career. He's an absolute stud. He's an absolute beast. I don't understand how this guy ends up getting traded away and moved away. And we're talking about the running back Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones put up over 1,100 yards for the Minnesota Vikings this past season. Now, I know that everything was firing on all cylinders, but this has been prototypical of Aaron Jones's entire running back career in the NFL. He is a dual threat running back. The guy he's an excellent receiver coming out of the backfield, and he has also got fantastic vision and athleticism, cutback ability, everything that you really want in your premier running back. Problem is, Aaron Jones is going to be a bit expensive when it comes to the running back position. And I'm just not sure, with the draft class being so loaded as it is right now with running backs, that you really want to go out and spend that much money on an aging running back. Yes, he did just put up 1,100 yards, but do you want to spend top tier money for an Aaron Jones when you could draft somebody in the second round who's going to be probably just as productive and be on a rookie contract? And for that reason alone, I would say probably this doesn't make a ton of sense for the Las Vegas Raiders to go out and get into the free agency and grab Aaron Jones. I think that if you can get him on a reasonable deal, you get a veteran running back in there and you still draft a running back maybe in the third round, then it could make sense. But as it stands right now, I'm just not sure. Like, if the Raiders were planning on a running back in the second round, you're going to get an absolute stud. You're going to get a Scattaboo in the second round, right? And that's an immediate upgrade over to every single running back that we have on the squad right now. Absolutely, no doubt about it. There are so many good running backs in this draft. The Raiders don't need to go out in the free agency. So I'm going to say, go ahead and pass on Aaron Jones and draft your running back in the second round. And I know everybody's saying we got to build the trenches. We've got to fix the offensive line. But let me just tell you this. The offensive line really needs one or two key pieces, and that whole thing is fixed, right? We're talking about right guard and left guard. If you move Jackson Powers-Johnson back to center where he belongs, and you draft a couple of young studs in the third round, again, we have 2 third-round draft picks. That's where you're going to pick up most of your guards. That's usually where they go. They usually don't go as high as the second or the first round. Usually pick up the cream of the crop in the third at your right and left guard position. Tackles and centers more often go in the second and the first round. So we are perfectly suited to pick up 2 stud guards in the third round, which means you don't have to spend a first round on a running back, and you don't on a guard, and you don't have to spend it on the second round, which means you can grab some skill players. Again, we've talked about this before. If the Raiders are not going to get a quarterback, then you're probably sticking with Aiden O'Connell, and maybe you're going after a Sam Darnold or a Russell Wilson or a Justin Fields if he's available, because, coach wants a winning team now. Like, he's only on a 3-year contract. He knows he's probably retiring after that. Maybe gets a 1-year extension, and then he's going to retire because he'll be pushing 80 at that point. And so he's got to win now. He needs a quarterback now. And as much as I hate to admit it, Russell Wilson could be in the options for the Raiders in